From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now! A landmark genocide trial against former Guatemalan dictator Rios Montt is suspended after the trial threatened to implicate the current president in the mass killing of civilians. Rios Montt was the first head of state in the Americas to stand trial for genocide. We'll speak with investigative journalist Alan Nairn, who was scheduled to be a witness in the trial.
Witnesses and survivors have described Rios Montt's troops beheading people. One talked about an old woman who was beheaded, and then they kicked her head around the floor. They ripped the hearts out of children as their bodies were still warm, and they piled them on a table for their parents to see.
Journalist Alan Nairn has just revealed Guatemalan Army associates had threatened the lives of case judges and prosecutors, and that the case had been annulled after intervention by Guatemala's President, General Otto Perez Molina. Alan will join us from Guatemala City, but first, the latest from Boston. One of the two suspected marathon bombers is dead, the other on the loose. A massive manhunt is underway. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. One suspect in the Boston Marathon bombings is dead, and a massive manhunt is underway for the second after a chaotic scene erupted overnight that left one police officer dead, another critically wounded. The Associated Press says that two men are brothers from a Russian area near Chechnya who'd lived in the United States at least a year. The one still at large has been identified by AP as Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, age 19, of Cambridge, Massachusetts. Authorities released a new image of him on Friday. In a tweet, NBC News said the deceased suspect, described as suspect number 1 and seen in FBI-released photos wearing a black baseball cap, was Tamerlan Tsarnaev. Massachusetts state police officials said the violence began when police received reports of a robbery at a convenience store near the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. An MIT police officer was then shot in his cruiser and later pronounced dead. The two suspects were then accused of carjacking a Mercedes SUV at gunpoint and at one point opening fire on police, including a transit officer who's now in critical condition. During the firefight with police, the first suspect was injured and taken to an area hospital where he was pronounced dead. Dr. Richard Wolf of Beth Israel Hospital described the suspect's injuries.
Multiple injuries, probably, we believe, a combination of blasts, potentially gunshot wounds.
How many gunshot wounds?
Unable to count.
Multiple gunshot wounds?
Yes.
And the other, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the rest of that.
And probably a blast injury also.
Blast meaning what?
An explosive device, possibly shrapnel, thermal injury.
Can you describe it where or what?
It was pretty much throughout the trunk. It was multiple wounds.
The two suspects are accused of planting explosives that detonated within seconds of each other at the Boston Marathon on Monday, killing 3 people and injuring some 180 others. Amid the search for the second suspect, public transit service was shut down in Boston. Residents of the town of Watertown and the surrounding area were being told to stay indoors. This is Boston Police Commissioner Ed Davis.
There's a 20-block perimeter around the location that Chief DeVoe just talked about. We are concerned about securing that area and making sure that this individual is taken into custody. We believe this to be a terrorist. We believe this to be a man who's come here to kill people. We need to get him in custody.
Last night's violence erupted hours after the FBI released video and photographs showing the two suspects and called for the public to help identify them. They said one of the men, the one shown in a white cap who's still on the loose, was caught on camera setting down a black backpack at the site of the second explosion just minutes before the bomb went off. The images were posted to the FBI's website, which was temporarily knocked offline as it was reportedly hit with its highest level of traffic ever. On Thursday, President Obama spoke at an interfaith service at the Cathedral of the Holy Cross in Boston. He addressed the scores of people injured in the Boston Marathon bombings.
Our prayers are with the injured, so many wounded, some gravely. From their beds, some are surely watching us gather here today, and if you are, know this: as you begin this long journey of recovery, your city is with you. Your Commonwealth is with you. Your country is with you. We will all be with you as you learn to stand and walk and, yes, run again.
Meanwhile, two men who were not suspects in the Boston attack were featured on the cover of the New York Post Thursday with the headline "Bag Men" and the text, quote, "Feds seek these two pictured at Boston Marathon." Following widespread condemnation, the Post editor-in-chief, Carl Allen, said in a statement, quote, "We stand by our story. The image was emailed to law enforcement agencies yesterday afternoon seeking information about these men. As our story reported, we did not identify them as suspects," he said. One of the men pictured, Salah Eddin Bahoum, is a high school student in the city of Revere who told the Associated Press he's been scared to go outside after the cover appeared. Bahoum told ABC News, quote, "It's the worst feeling that I can possibly feel. I'm only 17, he said.
Where I go, just like I just don't want to look at people, because when they look at me, they're gonna be like, "Oh, you just did this. How could you do that?"
Speculation about the backgrounds of those behind the bombings prompted at least two violent attacks. In the Massachusetts city of Malden, a Palestinian woman says she was assaulted and harassed Wednesday while walking with her infant daughter. Heba Ebelaban told the Malden Patch a man punched her shoulder and launched into a profanity-laced tirade against Muslims, saying, quote, "You're terrorists. I hate you. You're involved in the Boston explosions." Meanwhile, a Bangladeshi man told the New York Post he was brutally beaten just hours after Monday's bombings by a group of men who called him an effing Arab at a restaurant in the Bronx. Abdullah Farouk said his shoulder was dislocated in the attack. Officials in Iraq say 32 people are dead and 65 wounded after a suicide bomber detonated explosives inside a cafe in the capital, Baghdad. The cafe was reportedly packed with young people. Iraq has seen a rise in violence ahead of provincial elections that are set for Saturday. The death toll from a massive explosion at a fertilizer plant in the Texas town of West remains unclear as officials continue to recover bodies from the blast site. On Thursday, officials said 8 to 10 bodies had been recovered and half a dozen more might be inside. The State Firemen's and Fire Marshals Association reported 5 West firefighters were among the dead, as well as a Dallas firefighter and 4 medical personnel. The last time the Occupational Safety and Health Administration inspected the plant was reportedly in 1985. Venezuela's Electoral Council will complete an audit of ballots cast in the presidential election following calls for a recount by opposition candidate Enrique Capriles. Officials say they'd already audited more than half of votes, but will now examine the remaining 46%. The United States has backed calls for a recount after Capriles contested the tight victory by Nicolas Maduro, chosen successor to late President Hugo Chavez. Capriles claims the audit will show he won the election. The co-sponsor of a measure aimed at expanding background checks for gun buyers is blaming the National Rifle Association for the bill's defeat in the U.S. Senate this week. West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, a Democrat who in the past has received a top A rating from the NRA, is now criticizing the group's decision to grade lawmakers based in part on their votes on the background check measure, which failed to meet a 60-vote threshold Wednesday, along with all other major gun control proposals. Speaking Thursday at an event hosted by the Wall Street Journal, Senator Manchin said his bipartisan compromise amendment, crafted with Senator Pat Toomey, would have passed easily without the NRA's decision.
You know, if you're going to score something, score the first one. The first one had Chuck Schumer's bill, which I couldn't vote for. Okay? If you're a gun-loving Second Amendment defender, that's the one you couldn't even stomach. But I knew I had to get on that bill in order to change it. If they were true to their, they said, we'll score that one, and then this one makes sense, we won't score this one.
What would have happened if they hadn't scored it?
If they hadn't scored it, we'd have got 70 votes.
An analysis by The Guardian newspaper and the Sunlight Foundation found all but 3 of 45 senators who torpedoed gun control measures in the Senate this week have received money from firearms industry lobbyists. According to The Guardian, the NRA saw a spike in donations after the December shooting in Newtown, Connecticut, registering $2.7 million during January and February. And House lawmakers have passed a controversial cybersecurity bill that allows companies to share customer information with the government. The Obama administration's threatened a veto of CISPA, or the Cyber Intelligence Sharing and Protection Act, following public pressure from critics who say it would violate privacy rights. CISPA passed the House last year, but was filibustered in the Senate. Companies, including AT&T and Comcast, have backed it, while critics, including the American Civil Liberties Union, mobilized against CISPA, saying it would, quote, create a loophole in all existing privacy laws, allowing companies to share Internet users' data with the National Security Agency, part of the Department of Defense, and the biggest spy agency in the world, without any legal oversight. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez. Welcome to all of our listeners and viewers around the country and around the world.
Thanks so much for watching this report from Democracy Now!, your daily independent global news hour. We don't accept advertising or corporate funding, but rather rely on donations from viewers like you. Please make your contribution by visiting democracynow.org. We need your support today to keep bringing you this hard-hitting, in-depth reporting.